My name is Michael Carter, and just a few years ago, I was living paycheck to paycheck. At 29, I thought life was slipping away faster than I could catch it. Every day felt like the same routine. Wake up tired, work at a job I hated, come home exhausted, and scroll through my phone, wondering why others were living the life I wanted. I blamed the economy, I blamed my parents, I blamed luck, but deep down, I knew the truth. I had a fixed mindset that kept me trapped. I believed success was for the lucky, not for people like me. Then one night, sitting alone in my tiny apartment, something inside me shifted. I asked myself one simple question: what if the only thing holding me back was me? That question planted a seed that would grow into the most powerful transformation of my life. It was the beginning of the mindset shift that turned me from a struggling young man into a millionaire. The next morning, I made a decision that changed everything. I would stop seeing myself as a victim. For too long, I thought life was happening to me instead of happening for me. That single shift made me take responsibility for my choices. I started reading about successful people, not with envy, but with curiosity. I wanted to learn what they knew that I didn't. I studied biographies of entrepreneurs, listened to podcasts on mindset, and spent hours writing down goals that once felt impossible. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for luck. I was preparing for opportunity. This was new territory for me, and honestly, it was uncomfortable. But I realized comfort was the prison I had built for myself. If I wanted freedom, I had to step into discomfort. That was the day I started to rebuild my identity, not as a victim of circumstances, but as the architect of my own future. At first, progress was painfully slow. I wasn't suddenly rich, and no miracle happened overnight. But what did change was my thinking. I replaced Netflix binges with late-night learning sessions. I stopped complaining about my job and started using it as fuel. Every frustration became motivation to work harder on my dreams. I cut out toxic people who only wanted to drag me back to my old habits. And I started building habits of discipline, waking up earlier, exercising daily, and saving small amounts of money no matter how little I earned. These changes seemed tiny at first, but they created momentum. And momentum is a force more powerful than luck. The more disciplined I became, the more opportunities seemed to appear in front of me. I realized success wasn't about waiting for the right time. It was about becoming the right person. One of the biggest shifts I made was learning to value my time. Before, I would waste hours scrolling on social media, living in other people's highlight reels. But I realized millionaires don't spend their time consuming, they spend it creating. So I began creating. I started a small side hustle online, selling digital designs I made after work. It didn't make me rich at first, but it gave me something priceless, proof that I could create value. Each sale, no matter how small, was a sign that I wasn't powerless. Slowly, I shifted from being a consumer to becoming a producer. That single identity shift from consumer to creator was worth more than any paycheck I had ever earned. Because it wasn't about the money yet. It was about becoming a person who could make money. That's when I knew I was on the right path. But let me be honest, it wasn't easy. I failed a lot. My first online store barely made sales. My designs weren't perfect. Some days, I doubted myself so much I wanted to quit. But every time I thought about giving up, I remembered the old version of me, the one stuck in a cycle of blame, excuses, and fear. That man was gone, and I refused to go back. I realized failure wasn't proof I couldn't succeed, it was proof I was trying. Every failure became a teacher, shaping me into someone stronger, smarter, and more resilient. I started to understand that wealth isn't built on avoiding failure, it's built on mastering it. And once I accepted that, I stopped fearing mistakes. Instead, I embraced them as part of the process that would eventually make me a millionaire. The turning point in my journey came when I finally understood the power of focus. For years, I chased too many things at once, half-started projects, unfinished ideas, scattered energy. But one night, as I reviewed my failures, I saw the pattern. I was spreading myself too thin. Millionaires, I realized, don't try to do everything. They master one thing, then expand. So I made a choice. I would commit to mastering a single skill: digital marketing. It wasn't glamorous at first, and most of my friends didn't understand why I was so obsessed. But I dove deep. I watched tutorials, practiced campaigns, and tested strategies late into the night. The more I learned, the more confident I became. And then it happened. My first big client hired me to run ads for their small business. The moment I saw the results I created for them, I knew I had found my lane. That one skill became the foundation of my entire future. It taught me something vital. Wealth doesn't come from doing 1,000 things. It comes from doing one thing with relentless focus until you master it. As my skill in digital marketing grew, so did my income. But more importantly, my mindset matured. I stopped chasing quick wins and started thinking long-term. I learned that true wealth isn't about making fast money. It's about building assets that work for you, even when you sleep. So I reinvested my earnings instead of wasting them. I bought courses, hired mentors, and spent weekends networking with people who were where I wanted to be. At first, it felt intimidating to be around successful entrepreneurs. I doubted if I belonged in their circle. But slowly, I realized their success was proof of what was possible, not proof of what I lacked. Surrounding myself with people who thought bigger pushed me to think bigger too. That's when I shifted my perspective from how can I make money to how can I build value that lasts for years. This change in thinking led me to launch my first real business. It wasn't about getting rich quick. It was about building something sustainable, something that could outlast me. And that, I realized, is how millionaires think. Launching my first business was terrifying. I invested nearly all of my savings into it, knowing failure could set me back years. But instead of letting fear paralyze me, I used it as fuel. I reminded myself that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. My business started small, offering digital marketing services to local companies. I worked relentlessly, over-delivering on every project. Slowly, referrals started coming in. Clients trusted me, not just for results, but because I genuinely cared about their growth. Word spread faster than I expected, and soon I had more work than I could handle alone. That forced me to make another mindset shift. Stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a leader. I hired my first assistant, then a small team. Suddenly, it wasn't just me grinding late nights, it was a growing company fueled by shared vision. Looking back, I realized that millionaires don't just build businesses, they build teams, systems, and legacies. That's when I truly felt I was stepping into a new identity. Not just a freelancer, but a founder. With a growing business came new challenges. Leadership tested me in ways I never expected. Managing people was harder than managing ads. I had to learn patience, empathy, and vision. I couldn't just demand excellence, I had to inspire it. That meant becoming the kind of leader others wanted to follow. I made mistakes, of course. Some hires didn't work out. Some months, the numbers scared me. But instead of panicking, I leaned into growth. I read books on leadership, sought advice from mentors, and constantly asked myself how I could serve my team better. Over time, I discovered that success isn't about how much money you make, it's about how many people you lift with you. When I started focusing on helping my clients grow, helping my team succeed, and creating real impact, my income naturally multiplied. It wasn't just about me anymore, it was about legacy. And legacies, I learned, are built not with selfish ambition but with service. Today, as I look back at my journey, I see that the true millionaire shift was never about money. It was about mindset. I went from a man who blamed circumstances to a man who created opportunities. From a consumer who wasted hours scrolling to a producer who builds value every day. From an employee trapped by fear to a leader driven by vision. The bank account changed, yes, but the bigger transformation was internal. That's why I share my story, not to impress, but to remind you that if I can do it, so can you. Because the truth is, the greatest investment you will ever make isn't in stocks, real estate, or business. It's in your mindset. Money can be lost, businesses can fail, but the person you become through the journey, that's priceless. My name is Michael Carter, and this is the mindset shift that made me a millionaire. Maybe today is the day you start your shift too. And that's the truth I've discovered. Greatness isn't reserved for the lucky few. It's built by ordinary people who decide to think differently, act boldly, and never stop growing. If my story proves anything, it's that you don't need to be born into wealth. You just need to be willing to shift your mindset and take the first step. Remember this, legends are not born, they are made. Every choice you make, every habit you build, every risk you take, it's all shaping the story of who you will become. This channel, Legend Made Here, exists for one reason: to remind you that your legend is still being written. Here, you'll find stories, lessons, and mindset shifts that can transform your life just like they transformed mine. Because you are not just chasing success, you are building a legacy. So if you're ready to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it, join this journey. Because the next great legend, it could be you.